Okay, so yeah, let me begin. Hello, guys, in this event. And of course, thanks to everyone who is here with us today. Let me quickly introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Xenia. I'm founder of product analytics studio Data Matters. And for already 3 years, I'm consulting steps and product analytics practice, helping them to use their data efficiently and become truly data-driven. And originally, my background is in product roles in different startups. What I would like to discuss today, there has been a lot of talk recently about the implementation step of product analytics, how to design event data, how to get it, how to make it of good quality, how to do everything right. So I'm not going to focus on this today. What I would like to talk about is about the post-implementation phase. Like when a product team, let's imagine that a product team already has made the perfect setup of product analytics. The data is trustworthy, good quality, everything is clear and structured, like the dream setup. And what comes next? The next team has to start using this data, start measuring the key metrics, find insights, use the data to build a better product. And this is actually where a lot of problems start to happen. From my experience, I noticed when it comes to product analytics and being data-driven, I noticed that it's currently so broken for product teams, and they lose seen across many different companies who just started collecting product data. And this is really funny that everyone starts perceiving themselves as a data-driven company just based on the fact that they are now collecting data. And of course, they are not really able to translate it into something actionable and to make some impact with it. And to understand why this is happening, I'd like to highlight the most common mistakes that companies make after they have implemented analytics and they are ready to use it. The first mistake, and this is actually a starting point, is treating data as a project. And by project, something that has a start but also has an end. And I noticed that a lot. So what happened is actually with some teams I worked with, we wrapped up the project of analytics implementation, and then the team just continues living its life, iterating on the product and thinking that analytics will work just out of the box and they don't put any more efforts to it. Yeah. And I had one of the cases like this. I worked with a startup. We created a robust setup for them, built a really nice system, and they were really happy with it. And then what happened? They kept iterating on the product and did nothing to analytics. And suddenly someone noticed some piece of data that was broken and something wasn't right with it. And after some time, the number of such pieces grew bigger, and it led to distrust of the data. And actually, the team just stopped using it, and they texted me a couple of months later and said, "Hey, our analytics setup is not working right. Everything is broken. The events are not correct. We are missing important things. We need your help again. Please come and fix it." And
just one question. Just one question.
Yeah,
here. I mean,
yeah.
In the end, let's say from a consulting revenue perspective, it's a great business model to basically do something and then come back 3 months and redo it again. But what were things that worked out for you to not have data as a project, so to really solve what you just described?
Yeah, I think that sometimes a team just has to stumble upon this problem themselves, right. and then they understand that they can't live like that anymore, and they need to pay some attention to their data. And for me, what usually helped, I tried to explain to the team to treat their data the same way as they treat the product. Like it's an ongoing and never-ending story. And for example, you always, with product, you always strive to improve it for users. You make iterations, you update something, you tweak things, you fix bugs. Just I try to explain to teams to treat their product data the same way, and as it is of product that need constant. Yeah, this is one problem, and the next one is relying on everything already. I think you all have seen these famous collections of metrics, like when you Google something and you see here are the best metrics to measure for a SaaS product, something like this.
We love them.
Or, for example, another case like using build templates or some default events, default configurations inside analytics tools. I think all of them have something like this, like Mixpanel or Amplitude. They have these templates. They have the like default events, which is pasted everywhere when you select some chart to build. And then everyone wondering why that doesn't work. So I also had a case with the team at a startup. They were building a mental health app, and when I started with them, they already had something built, like in terms of product analytics. So they have some dashboards, some visualizations, they measured some metrics. And for example, one case we had is that they thought they really had high retention, and they were measuring it. They used Amplitude, and they were measuring it as a starting event. They used any event, and as a returning event, they use also any event. And the interesting thing was that they had a lot of events coming not from their real users, but just from the website visitors, because they poured a lot of traffic there. And this from website visitors also fall under this definition of any event. Of course, we rebuilt. I asked them how did they build all their charts, all the dashboards, and they said we just applied some templates. It was fast and it worked for us, so we were satisfied. I said okay, and of course we rebuilt this retention metric with them correctly this time, and then they saw the real picture that turns out that they're having some problems with retention in their product. Yeah, and it was actually like 2 or 3 times lower than they saw previously with their variant of measuring. And what I think that as an inspiration, these kinds of pre-built things are not bad. They can give you an idea of where to start from, but it's a huge mistake to blindly rely on them without tweaking it for your own product or business model and your context. So what I also explain when I work with teams, that that every product is unique and there is no ready things that fit them all, and they need to really apply critical thinking and apply their product expertise and product knowledge to measure everything. And what's important is to focus on core value and core meaningful actions inside their product, not just relying on some pre-built configurations that any analytics system or some external resources may offer you.
Just to add this, like from my experience, I think especially the point with critical thinking is super powerful. And I think what these teams often suffer from, not that they can think critical, they definitely can do that, but I think they often don't really understand what the system is doing. So for example, what does any event actually mean? So once you explain that, I think you already described it like this, and tell them like, is this really your user experience, what you expect? Like just people just pop up and go away and you would still count this as retention? Then this critical thinking automatically starts for them. And I think this is always like the nice bridge that, at least like what I was always trying to build, is like to let them understand this is actually what the tool is showing you, but is it really what you want to see? And then from this conversations, it usually goes in the right kind of way. This is like why I really like that you add this critical thinking part here. So I think this is
yeah. So I think that of course these tools, analytical tools, are powerful. It's just that teams shouldn't trust them too much, and always it's better. I know maybe I will sound a little bit conservative, but I like to everything in hands than like rely on some default automations or configuration. They usually they are general, but they don't work in specific cases, and every product is specific. Yeah. The next mistake is about different understanding of how to measure things inside one company. And let's imagine that a team has a self-serve analytics setup, and now everyone can use it to find answers to their questions. The problems that I usually see, everyone starts doing analytics in their own way. For example,
Right.
marketing may measure activation in their own way, product in another way, I don't know, sales in some third way. And when there is no common understanding and no common standardization or metrics of some activity inside across different people, across different teams, the product analytics will actually make no sense because it can't work when everyone has different understanding. Yeah, I will talk about, there is a solution I used with several teams to solve this. I will talk about it a little bit later. And yeah, the next problem is about establishing the right processes. And I would say that having strong processes is the most important part in becoming a truly data-driven team. And in my experience, what I have seen is that teams keep shipping product changes, and of course they add with it, together with it, some product data that they're tracking, but they don't change their product processes in any way to integrate the product analytics inside their in their daily life, and
Yeah.
they don't review the data that they have collected. And this way, they just struggle to build a learning loop that makes an impact. And so I think that once you implemented analytics, you definitely need some refinement of processes to make analytics work. Otherwise, it's just data gets collected and that's it. And you're doing the work
Yeah.
just to check the box and not learning anything actually. And the last most common mistake I would say, and my most favorite one, it's called motion over progress. So what I saw a lot of times, it's a really widespread problem. The majority has it. Like a usual process of building a product I saw worked like this. First, a new product or feature and ship it. Then you add analytics. Then you pull up your analytics and like visualize or calculate something. Then a team gets excited with it, with numbers, with dashboards, and they just go back to building product, feeling very productive. And this is when team often mistakes activity for achievement. And I think it's really common for feature factory type of
Yeah.
teams. Like again, I already mentioned these guys. I worked with a startup who were building a mental health app, and on our intro call when I just started working with them, I asked them like, guys, how are you doing? How are you doing with your analytics? What's your progress on the product? What's your impact? And they started showing me like, look at this, hey, we're moving forward, we're shipping stuff, and check out this new feature, look at this dashboard, it's alive, it's so cool. They were really very excited about what they are doing, but I never heard anything on the results, on the impact they have made. And the mistake was that they didn't go deep in the exploration, and they just saw some nice dashboards, some numbers, some real-time activity happening on the user side. They got happy, and they just so happy that they forget about anything else. And yeah, this is what motion over progress is actually about. So what I try to explain to the teams that all the time, I repeat it, that dashboard is not an insight and it has no value in just existing. So you shouldn't be so happy. If you want to if you want to create a true data-driven culture, data-driven approach, and develop some insights, you have to take some time. You have to sit with your data and explore it. And I explain it all the time. And I think here definitely a shift in mindset needed, because instead of a mindset that dashboard is cool and it has some value, this should be that analytics is mostly about learning, and learning should become the top priority for the team, not just dashboard generating. And of course, learning as quickly as possible, because this allows to iterate fast on the product.
Right.
Yeah, so this, I would say, there are a lot of more smaller mistakes, but this is just the common ones I highlighted for myself. And what's interesting that sometimes teams don't even realize that they have these problems. And the question is how to define that your team is not truly data driven. I usually use 6 indicators to reflect on and to ask yourself, and if at least to just to check yourself, and if at least one of them is true, then it means that it's a sign that you're not 100% data driven. Indicators are the following. First of all, if you notice that you're doing a lot of work, you're shipping a lot of stuff, but you don't even know your impact. You don't know, you're not seeing the business change in any way, this is,
Right.
of course, a bad sign. Second one, that the numbers in your analytics are moving up or down, but no one really knows why this is happening. And it means that you just can't connect the dots. And this is the sign that you're not really integrating product analytics in your team. The third one is that it's a thing to check that everyone easily gets excited by a dashboard, and it gives you the team the illusion of activity. And this is what I was talking about, motion over progress. So they are rewarding just the fact that they are able to monitor something and the fact that there is a nice dashboard that exists. Then you're also not data driven. The fourth one is, it is a question to ask yourself how much time you're working with the data is actually learning versus reporting. And if you realize that you spend much more time on reporting than on learning, then it is also a bad sign. It means that you invest resources in just generating some numbers, some dashboards, and not like taking the advantage of learning things from your data.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the fifth one is just, it's an exercise to try to remember several important learnings you got from your data recently and explain why they are important. And if you can't remember anything, it means that you're doing analytics work, like I said, just to check the box and not learning anything. And yeah, the last but not least is, but it's really also important one, I think. If the KPIs in your company sounds like ship the thing or ship as many features as possible, that's also a sign of that it's definitely not a data-driven organization. And finally, I would like to share some solutions, some practical tools, frameworks, and approaches, how to make product analytics really work for product teams. I applied them myself while I was working with different teams, with different startups. Yeah, I'm going to share what and how worked for us. The first one, as I said earlier, its processes are really important to make analytics work. And what's a good approach that worked for me in several cases is to introduce regular business or product reviews with data. I implemented it in one team. We had it in the following way. So when they shipped something like an experiment, a feature, or an update, they marked some day on their calendar. And it was the day when they were expecting to collect enough data to learn what happened. And several days after it, they scheduled a meeting. And as a part of the preparation for a meeting, they worked with the data, they explored things, they analyzed all the impact they made with this update and some results. And all the meeting, they called everyone who was involved, and someone from the team gave an overview in the format like, here is we made this change, here is what happened, here's what we learned, and here is what we are going to do about that. And as a proof, they provided some data, some measurements, and some learnings they have made with it. And yeah, the team was not allowed to move the new thing until they do this. Yes, this may sound strict at some point, but it really kept everything organized, and it forced people to really answer the questions and practice product analytics for any change they made, and help them to understand their impact on the outcome of the business, and and help them to focus on always asking why and what we learned.
Yeah.
And actually, after some time, the team got used to this process, and it started feeling more like an organic part of their product analytics process. So yeah, now they keep doing this, and it doesn't feel very strict anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I especially like this, that the feature that you cannot think about the next feature if you haven't done this. So this is a
yeah.
powerful force. So to tell a product team you cannot move on with features, I think it's the hardest thing that you can tell a product team. So that's great.
Yeah, but like I said, they as a normal product team, they want to move forward, of course, so they have no choice but to complete this exercise of doing the review with data. Yeah, the next solution, the next approach I earlier today I talked about the problem of different understanding across the organization.
Exactly.
How to solve it? It's important to develop common understanding of each metric, of each action across the entire organization, and because otherwise analytics won't work. And I had a case when I worked for a fintech startup, and when I just came to the team, I was getting to know things there. I asked several people from the company the question, how do you define your active users?
Yeah.
And almost in each person gave me different answer. I had answers like those who open the app, those who transact daily, those who transact monthly, maybe also those who have positive account balance, and a lot of different variants like this. And they were really like doing their analysis, their product analytics based on their understanding. So
Right.
everyone has different, even if they were analyzing like active users, like daily active users, everyone got different numbers. That was really cool. I like that. What I did back then, I was the following practice. We gathered on a session with the team. It was like a workshop, and we looked at their product, at their current goals, their metric structure, and together we defined who they should. We created a definition of their active user, like who should they treat as an active user. We defined what are the key actions in the product, what is the usage interval, how they measure retention, how they measure activation, setup moment, etc., everything. And we, of course, documented it and put in a special place like Notion or something, and shared with everyone across the team. And I really forced everyone who wanted to like get hands dirty with analytics to first read this document and all these definitions, and everyone, and every time they tried to analyze something, to refer to it while crafting some chart or measuring some metric. And it really worked, and a team had a common understanding of things, and they got really aligned. And when I asked them again, how do you define your active users, I didn't get different answers this time. So of course there were still some cases when someone did something wrong in analytics, but much less, and it was really now a rare case than a common practice. Yeah, what the next approach, it's about democratizing knowledge of how to do things and how to use analytics tools and how to get answers from the data themselves. It is done to enable everyone in the product team, also in the marketing team possibly, to be able to answer questions by themselves and to find answers, for example, why the metric is moving themselves without any external help. And also for this, I had a case some years ago. I was working with a team. They were building something like AI product for generating podcast content, something like this. Mm-hmm. And their founder really wanted their product team to be able to dig in data themselves. What we did, I tried to make some kind of a workshop-like collaboration with them, not being just like a report generator or doing lectures, but every time when someone from the team had a question, we jumped on a call and I explained them everything, like how to look for answer to the questions in the analytics tool themselves, I asked them to do this and pointed them to their what they are doing wrong. And we did it for each and every case, even like several times per day, because they were trying to use analytics very actively. And we still, until they were able to do at least like the majority, at least 80% of their questions, to find the answers to it themselves. And we still keep in touch. We still keep in touch with this team, and I saw that they are doing really great. I don't think they hired any analyst. They're using their data a lot, and they are pretty good at it. They are able to find everything themselves. I think it's a nice achievement for the team.
I have same experience. Just to add one thing, because I really like this example when you say someone had a question, you set up a call, you bring everyone in, you can showcase how to do this. Another version of this that I often use was like to introduce some kind of an office hour. When we get started, we even did it sometimes 2 times a week. It was an open slot, everyone knew I was there. They can just come up, have their case ready, and we can just go through this together. and we always recorded it and shared it with the all other
Mm-hmm.
groupies. So this is something which has a little bit more structure, but also works quite well for this.
Yeah, it was just, but the team, they asked me just, they didn't ask me, can you help me to do this? They asked, I need to look, for example, I don't know, for our retention rate, can you send me the chart? I said, no, we will have a call now and I will explain you how to do it yourself. Yeah, yeah. Again, a little bit strict, but it worked.
No, 100%. I think this is like
Yeah,
also like you can help them to overcome their, let's say, their fears that they cannot really do it. So
exactly. They really started feeling more confidence. Yeah, the next approach, it's I would say it's more about shifting the mindset, which is also important. Is to try to treat everything as an experiment, and this is actually, I believe, what differs feature factory teams from
yes,
truly data-driven teams. By treating everything as an experiment, that experiment should have may have some goal and should have some outcome, successful or not. And for features, for every product iterations and updates, I think that teams should apply the same thinking, the same mindset. So to write what is the goal of the experiment, how do they understand if it's success or not, and what are they going to do if it's not a success, and of course be ready to remove the experiment, to remove the feature or the update they made if it doesn't bring the expected result.
I
I
think
know
one
it's
thing
really hard.
just to say for people to
Yeah.
context, we are not just talking about A/B testing. So because like when people hear
Yes.
experiment, they immediately think it's an A/B test. No, it's actually not. It can be an A/B test, but it can also, as you already said, it can be a feature. You have a clear understanding which kind of metric you want to impact. You test it. Oh yeah, there's an impact, or maybe you see there's no impact, and then you basically go back to the whiteboard and have to start over again.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, like I said, it can be really hard for teams to think like that, but I believe that in order to let product analytics really work and bring some results and some value, it's important to have this mindset.
Yeah.
And yeah, final thought for me is just to try to ask great questions, because the greatest insights come from great questions. Product analytics, I always say that product analytics is more about, first of all, about product thinking, and then about actual analytics and crunching numbers.
Right.
So yeah, just if you ask great questions and then check them with data, everything is possible.
I think especially
Yeah,
like
I think,
the
yeah.
product thinking part is something that, especially when you have analysts that don't really have a product background, this is, I think, the one skill that they really have to work on, at least from my experience, because analyze is one part, but you basically upgrade yourself 2 or 3 levels when you understand how a product is built, how you work with product. Basically, a lot of product theory that usually you would cover when you're a product manager. Yeah, this is extremely helpful because then the questions are much easier, at least from my experience.
Yeah, and I would add here that in case if the company has its own analytics team, I really believe and I really recommend to embed a product
Yeah,
analyst inside of a product team, just the same way as every cross-functional product team has its own engineers, product designers, and
yeah.
product manager. A product analyst should be a part of it and not be someone somewhere on the side, because otherwise they just become as query creators or dashboard configurators, and they are left without any understanding of current product strategy, of day-to-day challenges of a product team. And this way you shouldn't expect from them any actionable insights or any value.
And also, like I saw also like a similar, different thing, like when you basically have an analyst working very close or within the product team, because an analyst has an analyst mindset, unless they wouldn't be an analyst. So they will approach meetings already with different kind of questions, and you will see this bouncing back and forth. So I saw product teams when they had an analyst there. At some point, they picked up the way how an
Mm-hmm.
analyst was treating this, and the analyst would pick up how the product was. So it was a nice experiment to see how these two basically approaches were merging together, which is really powerful if you can achieve that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you ask me, have I seen an example of a team of a company who has all this all, all these threats and all these approaches that I talked about? I would say that 100% no. But I had a really nice experience with one team. They were building also some mobile app for reading fan fiction stories generated by
Hmm.
AI, something like this. And they were pretty early and small, so they launched just in October. And I basically helped them with analytics and data-driven practice. And they were really they had the great mindset and readiness to like to try to test different things, to try different approaches. And they were really doing great in terms of their process. They were, first of all, they were keeping their analytics, they were maintaining their analytics actual all the time. And but they didn't even have some tracking plan on or some documentation. Just their developer was responsible for adding all the events, and it worked. It was super clear and no one had any questions about what is it. And they also worked fast. They tried to work fast. They shipped new iterations every week or every 2 weeks. And we had what I talked about earlier. We had this kind of regular meetings where we used to sit with the data and analyze the impact together and of the feature or of the iteration and check our questions, check our hypothesis all the time. And also, after each session like this, we crafted some kind of a report where we would write out all our findings and learnings and conclusions and
Yeah,
decisions. And we organized like a special space, something like learning space, where we
yeah,
put all this stuff and from every iteration and from every review. And the team could get back to it and could reference it all the time. And yeah, what I talked about also, they didn't move forward with like further improvement or iteration on the feature or something if they haven't done all of this and if they haven't got any learnings. And they also, this is I think the only case I saw that when a team they sunsetted the features that didn't produce an impact, that didn't deliver any results. They really did this, even not one time, every time they tried to do it as a practice, as a common practice. And like I said, they had the best approach from what I have seen.
yeah,
I can say that I worked most with smaller startups, early
yeah.
stage ones, and they finally sunsetted their product because I think they just couldn't find product market fit for it. But I
Yeah,
think that analytics also played a great role in this because
exactly.
it helped them to understand it much earlier than
Yeah,
they could have done this and lose more resources on it.
yeah, I
So
totally understand.
yeah,
This is my magic question. So I usually ask product teams, have you ever sunset or have you sunset a feature in the last 12 months? And this already gives me a quite good idea what the mindset of the product team is. Usually
yeah,
they,
exactly. Yeah, usually in 90% of cases, I had the same experience. They usually don't do it. So yeah, like that's why I decided to talk about this case because it was really an unusual one for me. Yeah, and so to summarize everything that I have just said, I think the data-driven approach is built around two core things. First of all, processes and then mindset. And the processes should be strong and sometimes strict, and the team should really commit to them. And then the mindset will come after the processes are a habit.
that's
Yeah, so
nice.
I think that's it that I wanted to share today.
That's fantastic. I'm just writing this down so I can share you will see it. So I was a lot of documentation, which is a great one already, and
Yeah.
like a lot of people were live on the board, which is also nice. That's fantastic. Just let me quickly check. So I think you answered this question about how much time would you allocate for looking at the data. Also, because you had this very important part about learning versus just building reporting. Do you have, from your experience, what is a good measure to learn new things during a week? How much time would you spend on that?
I wouldn't say I have a measure. I would spend on it
Right.
as much time as it is needed to learn something. Like if you spend, say, you think you spend a lot of time, like a couple of hours, and you still understand that you haven't learned anything new, then just keep doing it.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. One thing which I can definitely recommend, especially like when you don't work in a startup, but you work, let's say, in a company where, let's say, the calendar is very dictated.
Mm-hmm.
I always had a blocker on, usually on Fridays. I usually call it Learning Friday, where I, yeah, just took 2 hours to learn new things from the data.
This is a good practice to allocate time.
Yeah.
That's nice.
All right. I think these are, let me just quickly check if we have some here. No, these are all questions. Thank you so much. I think this is, I especially love the three indicators to see if you're data driven or not, because there's a lot of stuff in there where you can really see, okay, this might be an area where you can improve. Because to be fair, not very much companies are on this kind of level, but you can go step by step. You have 6 levels.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you can do
Exactly.
whatever.
I use it just like a checklist, and you check it
Yeah,
next to every point that you achieved.
yeah, exactly. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Yeah,
taking the time.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today, and thanks everyone who is with us today as well.
Exactly.
It was my pleasure to share some stuff with you.
Super helpful. Okay, for everyone else, see you in the next one, which I don't really know which one will be the next one, but we will post about it.
It's intriguing. Sounds intriguing.
Exactly. So we don't tell too much. It will be really good. So thanks again,
Great.
and see you next time. Okay,
Yeah, great. See you. See you. Bye.